Hello, today I'm going to talk about Premodern, and Premodern is a format with a huge variety of decks. So players might be confused by the sheer amount of decks. We are here to make some clarity over the debate of which decks are tier 1. So first of all, I have my favorite, Terrageddon, the controlled version with Sphere of Resistance and Oath of Druids. This deck is extremely consistent. It struggles a bit against mono-red decks, so you need a solid sideboard plan. But other than that, this deck is going to be very good. Next we have blue-white replenish. It struggles against elves, and it may lose some games to red decks, especially if you don't draw chill in game 2 or 3. But other than that, it's very consistent. It has a very straightforward plan, and it's basically the same deck that won Worlds in 2000. Next we have Mono-Red Burn. This is the most played deck, and it's also good. It has a linear plan, and it's going to win its share of tournaments. Obviously, it struggles against blue and white sideboard cards, and it cannot beat black rack decks, which are rare, so it's all good. Next we have stiflenought. I don't love this deck, but it sometimes wins tournaments, so it's okay. The thing that I don't like about this deck is that it struggles against terrageddon, and it also has a very bad time against black and white decks. Next we have elves, which is tier 2 in my book. This deck is very well liked, but it never really gets it done because it struggles too much against too many decks, just like goblins, burn, and to a lesser extent terrageddon. It's not a very good matchup. It beats replenish, but this means that we are talking about a tier 2, in my opinion. If you're looking for specific matchups among tier 1 decks, that's a tier 2. Next we have goblins, which you can tell I don't like because I don't actually have goblins here. This deck has a very hard time against replenish. At least I hope that this is the red and green list. And it has just too many 50% win rate matchups, so it's hard to win a tournament starting from that point. Like, you don't really have any praise. Next we have Reanimator, which is a linear strategy, and it also has access to cards that answer your opponent's sideboard cards, like Show and Tell or Oath of Druids, but this deck is just not consistent enough. It loses to blue and white decks. Next we have Zoo. This is basically red deck that wins the mirror match. So you're giving up on Bow Lightning so you can make room for Call of the Herd. This way you are going to lose even more often against replenish. So you're going to have a very good tournament. Then you get paired with replenish and you lose. And you don't have that power. This deck doesn't really want to play Press of Progress, let alone main deck, so you don't have that reach. Next we have black and white. I don't like the controlled version of this deck. I prefer the Gaia variant, but the Gaia variant has its own share of problems. People are using non-Shade, but the mana base does not support it, in first place, and other than that, this deck is not an aggressive deck. It's mid-range, and the mid-range deck doesn't want to play onto shade. So I play this deck because I feel like it's misunderstood and underappreciated. Next we have Blue Tide with this beautiful morphling, Superman. Well, this deck can win games and tournaments, but it's not a top 8 deck. I mean, these decks are the top 8 decks. Blue Tide is slightly worse. And to round up the top 10, we have Blue and White Control, Standstill. This deck struggles against tier 1 decks. Maybe it's okay against Dreadnought decks, but it does not beat tier 1 decks consistently enough, so you're just hoping to play against decks in this category, like tier 2 decks, and when you get paired against actually good decks, you lose. So I don't recommend it. If you want to play a tournament, I'd stick with these decks. And yeah. Other choices are Stasis, The Rock, Enchantress, Madness, but this deck very rarely make it, just like Storm, Ill-Gotten Gains, or Full English Breakfast. There are so many decks, mostly combo decks, that are rare, but they are rare for a reason. So let me know your thoughts. See you the next time.